Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lee Nelson. Thanks for joining us. We begin this noon with this breaking news out of Farmington. We have a live look at the scene where an explosion took place at Leap Incorporated on Farmington Falls Road this morning. One firefighter has died. At least 12 other people are injured. We have coverage coming your way, including Hannah Deneen, who is live in Farmington right now, and we're efforting some other live shots as well. But we'll start with Hannah, who is at the scene with the very latest. Hey, Hannah.
Hey Lee, yeah, it's almost eerily quiet here, not quite at the scene. All of the roads have been closed off leading to the scene, so this is as close as that we can get. But from all the video and the pictures that we've been getting this morning, we know that the Leap Incorporated facility has been completely demolished. Now, fire departments responded to the scene just after 8 a.m. this morning, and we're told they responded to the smell of gas at the Leap Incorporated facility, and that's at 313 Farmington Road. Now, that's the building which was recently renovated and expanded. It houses the Life Enrichment Advancing People, otherwise known as LEAP. According to their website, LEAP supports people with developmental, cognitive, and intellectual disabilities to be actively involved in their home communities. When the fire department arrived to investigate the scene, that's when the building exploded. One Farmington Fire Department member was killed in the explosion, and 4 other Farmington Fire and 1 LEAP employee were injured. Now, all were transported to the nearby Franklin Memorial Hospital initially, and then many of those injured were transferred to other hospitals around the state, and one even to Boston. At this time, we are not aware of any further fatalities, and we do not know the extent of the injuries. Now, in addition to the LEAP building being completely destroyed, we're told multiple homes in the area were damaged. Now, it's all hands on deck at the scene as this investigation kicks off today. Certainly, we expect to learn a lot more as this investigation continues. But for people in the community, the police here are asking that they avoid the area of 313 Farmington Road and the general vicinity around that. So lots more on this story to come. Lee, back to you.
Indeed, Hannah, thank you very much. So as Hannah said, some of the folks were taken to the local hospital there in the Farmington area, some to other hospitals. Clay Gordon is live at Maine Medical Center in Portland, where some of the injured are being treated now. Clay?
Yeah, Lee, we have an update for you. As Hannah mentioned, there were 7 initially brought to Franklin Memorial Hospital in Farmington. A spokesperson tells me they are still currently treating 1 patient there. But we are also learning that they sent 2 patients to Central Maine Med in Lewiston. 1 has been transported to Mass General in Boston. And Maine Medical Center, where I'm standing, has 3 patients right now. And we are not aware of any of the conditions. But we did hear from Maine Med. They did release a statement earlier saying in part, quote, "We have trauma teams on standby, and the resources and medical expertise needed to treat these patients. We have no further information to release at this time, and we will provide updates as they become available." Lee, once again, we do not know the conditions of some of these patients that were transported from Franklin Memorial earlier this morning. But I do have a source that is telling me that local fire departments, some as far as an hour away, are sending crews to the Farmington Fire Rescue Department to man their station while they are dealing with this tragedy. Lee?
All righty, Clay, thank you very much. Now, we have been receiving some drone video that a viewer sent us earlier today. Hopefully we can show you that. It gives you an idea of the extensive damage in this area around where the explosion took place. Zach Blanchard has been on the scene all morning long, talking with the people who felt this explosion, witnessed this explosion, and he joins us live now. Zach, what can you tell us?
Yeah, good afternoon, Lee. Many of those people saying that they could feel this for miles. We were hearing from people on social media as well as phone calls just from all over the county here. But the people that are here closest to all of this, they are just absolutely stunned. As Hannah said before, the feeling here is really quite eerie. There are some people just driving through as well as walking through. The fire department right there behind me, people just standing outside there as this continues to unfold. But I want you to check out this video shared with a business owner here. You can see It almost looks like snow on the ground. Some people here comparing it to what some pictures of 9/11 in New York City look like. And you can see their fire crews, EMS, just frantically at that scene. The building completely leveled, it appears. And we've been in touch with people, again, all across the county who say they felt and heard this explosion, as well as there was some damage to homes in this area. But those nearby said it was so violent that power lines were actually shaking here. Here's what one business owner had to say.
A nuclear explosion, that's the only way to describe it. It shook everything. It shook the building, it shook the parking lot, it shook the car that my son was sitting in.
Scary stuff.
Yes, very scary stuff.
There's a lot of people who work for them, and they had just built this building, like they just finished it. We had some friends who were actually going to a training here today. They were on their way. So that's scary to think that even more people could have been lost.
So again, we are live here in Farmington, where one firefighter has died, as many as 13 other people injured, and at area hospitals from all across the state, including in Boston. And we have been receiving condolences coming in already, including from the Maine Fire Chiefs Association on Facebook, saying thoughts and prayers go out to the Farmington Fire Department today. We will, of course, continue to keep you updated on this both on air and online. But for now, Lee, I'll send it back to you.
All righty, Zach, thank you very much. Governor Janet Mills tweeted this morning about what happened as well. "I am closely monitoring the explosion in Farmington," she tweeted, "and have instructed the Department of Public Safety to keep me apprised of the situation. Per protocol, the State Fire Marshal's Office will thoroughly investigate the cause and origin of this devastating explosion. Our hearts go out to all those impacted by the tragedy, especially to the loved ones of the firefighter lost and others injured. I am grateful for the work of first responders who are at the scene and urge Maine people to avoid that area." And here's a statement just released from LEAP Incorporated. This is where the explosion happened. It says, quote, "Our hearts go out to anyone injured or impacted today. There were many heroes whose actions today saved additional lives. Those heroes included the first responders, LEAP staff, and neighbors." And we'll continue to update the Farmington story throughout the day. But for now, we're going to turn our attention to the forecast, and we'll get back to some of that other news in just a little bit.
All right,
so
well,
Keith, howdy.
Well, nice. So
Beautiful.
So, a lot better news here in the second half,
Yeah.
which is the whole week really looks solid. But let's start with where we're at. We've got some cloudiness out there still. And, you know, today and tomorrow will be the worst days of the work week, and that's because the bar is going to be so high. We've just got some extra cloud cover around right now. We'll see that again tomorrow, and it's got kind of a convective wave look to it in the mountains and even down to the interior and coastline. Temperatures are struggling a bit into the mid-60s in most spots, only in the 50s in the mountains, and gradually throughout the week we'll start ramping up into probably the 80s by the weekend, and perhaps even warmer late weekend into next week. Current dew points in the 40s, so it's a relatively dry air mass. Yesterday got a little sticky at times during the afternoon as it pushed into the 70s, and the dew points were higher into the 60s. Back down though for the next couple of days. Hour by hour forecast even tries to give us a mountain sprinkle and a sprinkle across northern Maine, but most of us dry and a mixture of sun and clouds. And you'll see that tomorrow is similar in that way. We've got some convective cloudiness around, temperatures in the mid-60s, very, very similar to today. Then we get rid of any of that moisture on Tuesday night, and we should be in better shape on Wednesday. Notice we start Wednesday morning in a lot of spots in the 30s and low 40s, so certainly crisp. But from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and perhaps all the way into the weekend, we're in really good shape as far as sky cover goes and eventually temperatures. Lee, I think the story here is going to be not only that we're going to rip off 4 or 5 days of nice weather in a row, but by late weekend into next week, that warmth we've been waiting for should finally arrive, and it might actually be borderline hot.
All right, Keith, very interesting indeed. All right, we got much more news coming up. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. Following some other news this Monday, the third person wanted in connection with last week's shooting in Presque Isle has now been captured. The Aroostook County Sheriff's Office says thanks to a tip, Jason Alexander was found at a home in Blaine and arrested there last night. Two men who allegedly hid Alexander were also arrested. Police say Jordan Field of Blaine and Ned Ketchum of Mars Hill are facing charges of hindering apprehension or prosecution. Alexander was wanted by Presque Isle police for his role in a shooting on the 9th that left a man badly injured. Police have not released the victim's name, but say he is recovering. Another man, Jomo White, and a woman, Brittany Britton, have also been arrested in connection with the shooting. White is facing an attempted murder charge, and both are facing assault and gun charges. A high-profile murder trial is set to begin a week from today. Frank Daly is accused of shooting Israel Lewis of Bangor. Lewis was shot on January the 7th of last year. His body was discovered 3 days later by his ex-girlfriend. And that trial was originally scheduled for back in June, but it was delayed because one of the prosecutors retired. Investigators say they found the murder weapon in Daly's apartment. Daly has pleaded not guilty. More than 500 new laws or changes to current laws are going to take effect Thursday here in Maine. One bans electronic cigarettes and vaping devices on public school grounds. And another prevents drivers from holding cell phones. And the controversial practice of conversion therapy will also become banned. And there are other new laws that don't go into effect quite yet. They include the elimination of religious or philosophical exemptions for childhood vaccines, as well as a law requiring Medicaid to cover abortion services. Those laws may need to survive people's veto attempts before they can take effect.
All right, as I mentioned, we're about to launch into a great stretch of weather, but maybe more interesting, some heat could be on the horizon.
All right, Keith is back again with a more detailed weather forecast. Yeah, we've got 2 days in a row that are really nice, and we're going to push this, right?
Yeah, yesterday was weird because for a couple hours it was not hot, but it was warm, legitimately warm with the humidity and everything like that. This week is going to be gradual, so we're starting cool right now, but by the end of the week, and then the last day of summer officially could be hot, which would be Sounds about right. That's just Maine reminding you it does not care about the seasons at all. Just does its own thing. And we do have some cloudiness out there right now. As I said before, I think today and tomorrow are going to be like this. There is some convective aspect to the atmosphere. We try to bubble up clouds and a couple of showers even across northern Maine. But most of us are dry, and we'll call it a mixture of sun and clouds through the rest of the afternoon. And the big picture kind of shows you how we're going to get a couple of nice days here. Big ridge of high pressure in place. And then we've got a hurricane down here, but this is going to get steered out to sea. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But we've got a lot of clear air off to our west, which is going to be beneficial for us throughout the week. Temperatures right now in the 60s, 50s in the mountains. And look, today and tomorrow are not going to be all that warm. And part of that is air mass. The other part of that is mixture of sun and clouds, the sun angle getting lower. So it's a little bit harder to really warm up without full sunshine. Dew points much lower than yesterday as well, into the 40s. And that's kind of where we'll live at through the middle of the week. There will be an increase in humidity late week and more so into the weekend that you might start to notice as we get towards that warmer period of time. So hour by hour forecast tonight, we go partly cloudy. Temperatures drop into the 40s and maybe low 50s along the immediate coast. Tomorrow is almost exactly the same as today. Isolated sprinkle in northern Maine and over down east, but most of us sun and clouds, mid 60s. And then we really break out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's cool overnight those nights, but it's nice during the day. Temperatures into the upper 60s and low 70s. Through Thursday, you can see nothing really going on at all on our predictive radar. All right, here's our hurricane. We talked about this last week about how, was this going to be a factor for us? The good news is it's not a factor for anybody along the East Coast. And it is good news because this is looking stronger, looking more like a Cat 2 system, which it likely will be upgraded to later today. But look at that track. We knew we'd have one of these, but it's really one of these out to sea. So not going to be an issue for us at all. And even a little sling back in here would bring it, 500-600 miles at the closest to Maine. So it's going to be a non-issue, and that opens up our whole weather pattern going forward into the week and allows that ridge that we've been watching to build as we thought that it would. And so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, watch it pump up and deflect a hurricane out to sea. That means that Friday, Saturday, Sunday are increasingly warm, and maybe Sunday into Monday we could be in the mid 80s and even warmer. So that's going to be a really warm period of time. And then we crash back to reality, it looks like, for later on next week. But there will be that building warmth. And Lee, we knew that ridge was there. We were just worried that the hurricane would impact it, and now it hasn't. And so we've got some 80s this weekend. The weekend looks really good, actually. 80 to 85 inland especially. And again, Monday could be the warmest day, could be a tad bit warmer than that, but the weekend is a summer weekend, which we like to catch a few of these, but that stretch basically, you could say starting today, but definitely from Wednesday through the weekend.
It's one of the nicer 7 days you've had in a while.
It is. And, I think Jess is getting married this weekend, Jess Gagne, and we had talked about if I had to pick any time, September. And it's because you just rip these off like that. It's great.
All right. Quick break, and we're back with more. health news for you this Monday, beginning with a look at the effectiveness and regularity of HPV vaccinations. Researchers from Children's Hospital in Colorado surveyed doctors from across the country and found only 65% of pediatricians and 42% of family practitioners use the most persuasive ways of introducing the HPV vaccine. Doctors say the new 2-dose vaccine for kids over 15 has boosted vaccination rates in older teens, but less than half of adolescents complete the full vaccine series. A new study finds doctors are increasingly prescribing medications for children that are not FDA approved for their age or weight or conditions. Researchers from Rutgers say the practice, which is legal, increased from 42% in 06 to 47% in 2015. The most commonly prescribed off-label drugs were gastrointestinal medications, antihistamines, antibiotics, and antidepressants. A new poll by the University of Michigan shows more than half of parents say they believe their teen has been in a car with a distracted teen driver. Parents' top concerns were distractions caused by loud music, cell phones, or just other teens in the car. A lot of parents said they tried to limit their teen riding in a car with a group of friends after dark or in bad weather. More than half of teens who die in car crashes are not behind the wheel. A family in North Dakota is one step closer to their fight for getting a life-changing drug for their baby. Their 4-month-old daughter Zoya was diagnosed with a genetic disorder just a few months ago, and the treatment that could save her life costs more than $2 million. As Melanie Palmer reports, it may be the most expensive drug in the world.
Say hi. On April 25th, Sumitra Bista and Binod Bondi's lives changed forever.
This was like the most exciting thing we have ever done in our life.
They gave birth to a sweet and what they thought healthy baby girl named Zoya. They tell us she passed her first doctor exam with flying colors, but then Bista noticed something wasn't right.
4 weeks around, I kind of see like she is not moving her hands.
She decided to bring Zoya to the hospital, and that's when their lives changed once again. After a handful of tests, Zoya was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy type 1. That's the more severe form of the genetic disorder causing extreme muscle loss and weakness. Most kids diagnosed with it can't control their head movements along with their legs and arms.
She would have SMN1 that is totally missing. She doesn't have any, so she doesn't have any functionality in terms of her motor neuron skills.
They tell us the disorder is fast moving and the symptoms can come on quickly, and that's why Zoya's life depends on getting the right treatment and getting it now. So they started her on some medication that has helped for the short term. But there's another drug they need badly that will make for another life-changing event. It's called Zolgensma, but it doesn't come cheap. In fact, it's been called the world's most expensive drug at a whopping $2.2 million. And Zoya's family's insurance initially said no,